They say the most unexpected moments never announce themselves. They slip in quietly, hidden in the ordinary, until suddenly you realize something has shifted. That's what happened to me that night. A neighborhood gathering, something I'd been to dozens of times, turned into the kind of memory that still lingers with me. It wasn't the laughter, or the food, or even the small talk. It was a single encounter. One that stirred something in me I hadn't felt in years. It began like this. It was a Saturday evening in late July, one of those nights where the heat still clings to your skin even after the sun begins to dip behind the rooftops. The smell of charcoal and grilled burgers floated through the air. Porch lights flickered on one by one, and the usual cast of neighbors gathered in the backyard, men talking about sports, women trading recipes, kids running barefoot across the grass. I'd been to these parties more times than I could count. 20 years of the same smiles, the same stories, the same predictable rhythm. I was there with my husband, Mark, though as usual, he found his place at the card table with a beer in hand. I drifted toward the cooler, poured myself a glass of iced tea, and settled into that familiar role of smiling politely, listening halfway, and letting the evening pass. But then, I saw him. Ethan Reynolds. My neighbor's son. He had grown up just 4 houses down from mine. I remembered him as the quiet boy who'd keep his head lowered when spoken to, who trailed behind his friends rather than lead them. Shy, gentle, never one to seek the spotlight. I hadn't seen him in a while, not really noticed him, anyway. But that night, he was different. He stood by the fence, laughing easily with a few guys his age. The fading sunlight caught the edges of his jawline, and there was a confidence in his stance that startled me. His father, Doug, was loud at the grill as always, telling jokes too big for the moment. But Ethan was quiet in a way that demanded attention. Not loud, not showy, just present. And it wasn't just me who noticed. I caught a few other women my age glancing his way. The same unspoken thought seemed to pass across their faces, the same one I couldn't shake. When did Ethan grow up? I'm 54 years old. Married for over 2 decades. 2 grown children with lives of their own. I hadn't really looked at a man in years, not like this. But something about Ethan made my heart stutter, made my breath pause. I told myself it was nothing, just a fleeting thought. And yet, my eyes found him again and again that night. Later, when the fireflies began to appear and most of the group shifted inside, I stood by the punch bowl, stirring absent-mindedly. That's when I felt it, his gaze. I looked up, and there he was, standing across the room. Watching me. He walked over slowly, deliberately. "Hi, Mrs. Emerson," he said, his voice deeper than I remembered. I smiled, trying to keep things casual. "Hi, Ethan. How are you?" "I'm good. Do you want a drink?" he asked, gesturing toward the counter. I shook my head. "I'm fine, thanks." We stood there in the hum of background chatter and soft music, but the space between us felt charged. His eyes lingered on mine a moment longer than they should have, and my heart raced in a way that surprised me. Then he said it. "I always thought you were cool." It wasn't a flirt. It wasn't even playful. It was sincere, steady, as though he wanted me to really believe it. The words caught me off guard. No one had said something like that to me in a long time. "I'm glad you think so," I managed, my voice quieter than I intended. As the night wore on, people began to say their goodbyes. I offered to help with cleanup, gathering cups and plates, making myself useful. Ethan lingered nearby, helping in his quiet, careful way. When most of the noise had faded and only a few stragglers remained, he approached me again. "I wanted to talk to you," he said. His tone was hesitant but sure. "What's on your mind?" I asked. He glanced around, making sure no one was close enough to overhear. Then he met my eyes with a seriousness that made my pulse quicken. "I've changed a lot lately," he said. "I don't feel like the kid I used to be." I nodded. "Everyone's noticed. You've grown into yourself." He hesitated, then drew in a breath. "And there's something else. Something I've wanted to say." The air seemed to still. I waited. "Finally," he whispered, "I've been attracted to you for a long time." The world around me fell away. The clink of dishes, the laughter from the other room, even the hum of the summer night, it all blurred into silence. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't know what to say. But Ethan didn't push. He didn't ask for anything. He just stood there, looking at me with raw honesty, with vulnerability that shook me. This wasn't a boy's game or some fleeting fantasy. It was real, unpolished truth. I don't know what to say, I whispered. I didn't expect you to, he replied softly. I just needed you to know. Something shifted inside me then. His honesty unlocked a part of myself I didn't even realize I'd buried. A part that longed not just for desire, but for recognition. To be seen. To be noticed. To be more than the role I'd been living in for years. When the evening ended, I walked him out to his car without even thinking about it. The stars hung faintly above us, the night air cooler now. He looked at me one last time. I don't expect anything, he said. I just wanted you to know. I nodded, my voice barely there. Thank you for telling me. We didn't hug. We didn't touch. But the silence between us said more than words ever could. I stood in the driveway and watched his taillights disappear down the street. And I realized then, the night had never been about the party. It had been about something else. Something deeper, quieter. The beginning of a question I hadn't asked myself in years. What if there's more life waiting for me still?